What the hell do you mean he made them pour concrete in a lightning storm? Elias Danner stared at the tablet in his hands, eyebrows drawn in tight. He was in his office on the 12th floor, overlooking the city skyline, but the view didn't matter today. His assistant had just forwarded him a report from an anonymous employee at one of their construction sites. No names, no photos. Just a shaky video clip of a job site in a full-blown thunderstorm, workers in drenched gear, sloshing through mud while a foreman barked orders. 13 construction sites across 3 states. Elias had inherited the company from his late father 2 years ago. His dad had built it from nothing, just a pickup truck and a crew of 4, but now it was a full-fledged empire. Elias had grown it even more, but he hadn't been to every site. That, he was starting to realize, might have been a mistake. He didn't want to rely on filtered reports from district managers anymore. He needed to see it himself. Site 12, the one in the video, was in a rural town 2 hours out. He'd never met the crew there. Most of the workers didn't even know what he looked like. His name was on their paychecks, sure, but he wasn't the kind of CEO who posted selfies online or gave speeches. His dad taught him to stay low profile. Perfect. He called a private staffing agency and set up a fake identity, Eric Dalton, a laid-off warehouse guy with basic construction experience looking for temp work. They forged a credible resume, got him steel toe boots, weathered jeans, and a neon orange hard hat. He shaved his beard into stubble, added a few fake tattoos on his hands. No one was going to recognize him. 3 days later, he was standing outside Site 12 at 5:30 in the morning. The place was already buzzing. The sky was overcast, thick with humidity. A grimy white trailer sat on one side of the lot. A foreman with a clipboard, built like a linebacker, was yelling at a guy for showing up 6 minutes late. Elias joined the new hires standing by the fence. A tall woman with a ponytail and scraped-up gloves gave him a nod. "You knew?" she asked. "Yeah, Eric," he said, holding out a hand. "Lana, you're just in time. Rain's coming, and that means hell." He looked at her. "Hell?" She didn't answer, just gave a dry laugh and turned away. The foreman stomped over. "All right, listen up. I'm Mitch. You work for me. You don't like that? You can leave now. We're behind on the foundation. So I don't care if it rains frogs, we're pouring slab this week. Questions?" No one spoke. "Didn't think so. Eric, Lana, you're on trench duty. Let's go." The next 10 hours were brutal. Elias dug trenches in shallow clay, sweat pouring down his back. The team was lean, only 8 people on site when they clearly needed at least 12. Lana told him 2 guys quit last week, and 1 broke his ankle and wasn't replaced. "Why didn't they just hire more?" "Ask the district manager," she muttered. "Or don't. He doesn't care." By late afternoon, thunder rolled in. Elias watched as dark clouds bled across the sky. Mitch didn't call them in. Instead, he shouted louder. "Keep working! We're not stopping for a little drizzle." It wasn't drizzle. It was a full-on storm in under 10 minutes. Wind whipped through the rebar frames, and lightning cracked nearby, close enough to feel it in your chest. "Mitch!" Elias shouted. "This isn't safe." Mitch stalked over, face red. "You speak when spoken to. Pour that mix, or get the hell off my site." Elias looked around. Workers were slipping in mud, trying to guide a concrete truck into position while rain gushed down. Lana was helping a younger guy who had fallen, pulling him up by his vest. "This is insane," Elias muttered. "No one cares," Lana said beside him. "Mitch says we stop, we get written up. 3 write-ups and you're out. Most of us can't afford that." They worked another 40 minutes in the storm before the truck got stuck trying to leave. The tires sank, and they had to push it out in the pouring rain. Back at the trailer, soaked to the bone, Elias sat in silence while Mitch yelled at the driver for getting mud on the road. No one said anything. Some of the crew were shaking, teeth chattering. That night, Elias sat in his motel room staring at the wall. He hadn't spoken all day. He couldn't believe what he'd seen. His company, his father's legacy, being run like a sweatshop, and he'd let it happen. Tomorrow, he'd be back on site. But this time, he was watching everything. By the time Elias made it back to the site the next morning, the ground was still soaked. Deep tire tracks had filled with water overnight, and the air was thick with the sour smell of wet concrete and diesel. The crew was already gathering around the trailer, bleary-eyed. most of them in the same gear they had worn the day before. No one talked much. No one smiled. Mitch stood on the trailer steps, holding a thermos and barking assignments. His voice grated like gravel under a boot. Trucks will be here by 7. We've got to finish forming the north perimeter. If you're slow, you're in the way. If you're in the way, you're gone. Got it? No one responded. Elias met Lana's eyes briefly. She looked worse than yesterday, dark circles under her eyes, a stiffness in the way she moved, like her back was giving her trouble. She didn't comment on it. No one ever did. Mitch tossed Elias a rusted shovel without looking at him. You, trench work again. Try not to screw it up this time. As he walked toward the far edge of the site, Elias noticed a guy sitting against a stack of boards, wrapping his forearm with duct tape. He was young, couldn't have been older than 20. What happened? Elias asked, keeping his voice low. Strained it yesterday. Mitch said no paperwork, just wrap it and keep going. The kid's face tightened as he pulled the tape tighter. Said I could take the day off if I didn't mind losing the rest of the week's hours. Elias didn't reply. He just picked up the shovel and started working. The trenches were already filling with runoff from the storm, and the clay had hardened around the edges, making every dig a fight. The heat pressed down with a new kind of weight, wet, suffocating. By noon, 2 workers had left to throw up behind the trailer. Mitch didn't stop them, but he didn't acknowledge it either, just called 2 others over to take their places. Elias kept at it until his gloves tore open at the palm. He ducked behind a stack of pallets and pulled out a fresh pair from his bag when he heard voices from up the slope. Thought you were supposed to be loading that rebar, not standing around like a damn tourist. Mitch again. A worker with a limp was trying to lift a bundle onto a dolly. Elias couldn't hear the response, but whatever it wasn't fast enough for Mitch. You think I care about your leg? Either lift or leave. I'm not running a charity. The man didn't argue. He just bent again and hauled the bundle onto the dolly, wincing through every inch. Elias walked up to Lana later, when they were both by the mixer, scraping dried residue off the chute. Does anyone ever file complaints? She kept her eyes on the scraper. To who? HR's in Dallas. We're 6 hours away and they've been restructuring for months. Last guy who tried to call the regional office got transferred to night shifts until he quit. Elias nodded slowly. That legal? She glanced at him, then back at the chute. You think legal matters out here? The day dragged on. By mid-afternoon, the site had slowed to a crawl. Not because of the crew, they were still working, still pushing, but the equipment was failing. One of the concrete mixers seized up. The backup generator sputtered and died. Elias overheard Mitch chewing out a supplier over the phone, threatening to pull the damn contract if another delay hit the schedule. Then came the mistake. A forklift operator knew, nervous, clearly undertrained, tried to shift a pallet of bricks near the edge of the forming. The ground, soaked and unstable, gave way slightly, and the entire load tipped. A brick clipped one of the laborers on the shoulder, knocking him to the dirt. Mitch was there before anyone else, not to help, to yell. What the hell did I say about your spacing? You keep the forks level. You just cost me 3 hours. The guy on the ground groaned, trying to sit up. Elias stepped forward. He needs to get checked. His arm's not right. Mitch turned on him. You got medical training now? He's fine. Get back to your station, Dalton. Elias stood his ground. You keep pushing people like this, someone's going to get killed. Mitch's jaw locked. That a threat? No, Elias said evenly. It's a fact. Mitch stared at him for a long second, then turned back to the injured man, who was now being helped up by 2 others. Get him some ice. He's back on tomorrow. The rest of the shift passed in silence. No music, no chatter. Just the grind of tools and the hum of distant machinery. Elias stayed late, helping Lana finish resetting a form that had buckled in the mud. As they packed up, she finally spoke again. You're either new to this kind of work, or you're not really who you say you are. He froze. She wasn't looking at him, just wiping her hands with a rag. You ask too many questions for someone just trying to make a paycheck. He didn't answer. I don't care who you are, she said, but if you're here to collect stories, make sure you get the whole picture. What do you mean? She looked up now. This crew, we're not lazy. We're not stupid. We're just tired of being treated like we don't matter. We've had guys pass out on site. One broke his hand last spring and was told to tough it out. We've got families, we've got bills, but none of that matters to Mitch, or to the guy above him, or the one above that. We're numbers. And when numbers break down, they replace them. Elias felt that land like a stone in his gut. What would you change? He asked. She hesitated. Start by listening. Actually listening. Not sending down policies from some glass tower, but coming here, seeing it, feeling it. That'd be a start. He nodded. Thanks. For what? For saying it out loud. She tossed the rag in the bin. Don't thank me yet. We're pouring again tomorrow, and if the trucks show up late, Mitch'll have us working past dark. That night, Elias didn't go back to the motel right away. He drove around the outskirts of town, past shuttered storefronts and worn-down houses. The kind of place where work was work, and you didn't ask for better, you just hoped to keep it. He thought about the man with the taped-up arm. The forklift driver who'd nearly crushed someone, the crew pushing through heat, rain, and exhaustion just to make it to payday. He'd seen enough. Tomorrow, he'd go in early. Not as Eric Dalton, as Elias Danner. Elias arrived at Site 12 before sunrise, parked his rental truck where the crew wouldn't see it, and walked the length of the gravel lot alone. His boots crunched through scattered debris, loose nails, rusted tie wire, a shattered level someone had tossed aside the night before. The sky was still dark. Low clouds stretched thin and unmoving above the bare steel skeleton of the structure. A single floodlight buzzed near the trailer, casting long shadows over the raw concrete. He wasn't wearing the orange vest today. No gloves, no fake name. He stepped into the trailer without knocking. Mitch was inside, hunched over a folding table, nursing a paper cup of burnt coffee and scribbling notes on a clipboard. A radio played soft static in the background. He didn't look up. If you're here for day work, the gate's not open yet. Come back in 20. I'm not here for that. Mitch paused, raised his head slowly and squinted. Excuse me? Elias shut the door behind him. Name's Elias Danner. The pause was immediate. Mitch's expression didn't change, but the tension in his shoulders did. His eyes dropped to Elias's clean clothes, then back up to his face. You're kidding. No, Elias said flatly. I own this company. Mitch stood, trying to smooth the front of his shirt. Sir, I didn't know you were coming. If I had, you wouldn't have done anything differently, Elias cut in. You would have run this site the way you always do. Just like yesterday, and the day before that. Mitch hesitated. Sir, this is a high-pressure build. We've been understaffed and the weather. Don't talk to me about the weather. Elias stepped forward, voice calm but firm. You forced people to pour slab during a thunderstorm. You ignored injuries. You threatened workers for speaking up. I watched it all. Mitch opened his mouth, then closed it again. I spent the last 3 days on your site. I worked the trenches, pushed rebar, hauled 60-pound frames in heat and rain, and I saw how you manage. You don't lead, Mitch. You bully. You create fear. You put lives at risk to hit a schedule you can't manage without breaking people. I've been doing this for 20 years, and not one of those years gives you the right to treat people like they're disposable. Mitch's face flushed. He looked like he wanted to speak again, but Elias didn't give him the chance. You're relieved, effective immediately. Your access is revoked. Leave the trailer, leave the site. I'll have someone collect your keys by noon. Mitch stared at him, jaw working. But he didn't argue. He grabbed his clipboard, muttered something under his breath, and walked out. Elias exhaled, the weight of the decision settling heavily in his chest. But he didn't wait to feel good about it. He stepped outside and walked straight toward the forming area, where the crew was trickling in, yawning and dragging their feet. Lana was the first to spot him without the gear. Her brow furrowed. She stepped away from the pile of tie wire and crossed her arms. Thought you quit. I didn't, Elias said. I run the company. She blinked. What? I came undercover to see what was really happening on my sites. This one stood out for all the wrong reasons. Lana didn't say anything. A few of the other workers had stopped to listen, their expressions guarded. First things first, I've fired Mitch. He won't be returning. Second, no one's pouring anything today. I called in a safety inspection. They'll be here in 45 minutes. No one lifts a tool until they're cleared. A murmur rippled through the crew. Elias continued before anyone could interrupt. I know that doesn't fix what's happened. I know that doesn't undo the hours you've been pushed past your limits, or the injuries you've been told to ignore, but it's a start. Lana finally spoke. So what now? You disappear again? No, Elias said. I'm staying until the inspection's over. And I'll be back every week until this site meets the standard I expect. One of the workers, the forklift operator from the day before, stepped forward. Does that mean we finally get a real safety officer? Already hired, Elias said. Her name's Marcy. She'll be on site tomorrow. The young man with the duct-taped wrist looked up from the stack of lumber. And what about medical leave? I got told to wrap it and keep working. From now on, if you're injured, you report it immediately. Full pay during recovery, no exceptions. Lana was watching him carefully. And the crew were still short. Not for long. I've authorized a hiring push specifically for this site. You'll have 10 additional workers by next week. In the meantime, no overtime unless you volunteer. Someone in the back let out a quiet breath, like they'd been holding it for days. Elias looked around the site. I don't expect you to trust me yet. I wouldn't either, but I'll earn it, starting now. The safety inspection team arrived just after sunrise. Elias walked the site with them, noting every hazard, every shortcut Mitch had taken to save time. The inspector pointed out the unstable rebar stacks near the trench line and the lack of guardrails on the forming perimeter. Both were flagged for immediate correction. Elias took notes, not suggestions. Orders. Afterward, he gathered the crew in the shade of the trailer. You're all getting paid for today. Full rate, no deductions. I want you rested. Tomorrow, we start again, but on our terms, not Mitch's. He met Lana's eyes. She gave him a nod, small, reserved, not forgiveness, but maybe the beginning of something. As the crew dispersed, Elias sat on the trailer's steps, elbows on his knees, watching the sun rise over the half-built structure. It wasn't much yet, just concrete and steel, but it would be. And not because it got built fast, because it would get built right. The next 3 weeks were not about redemption. They were about repair slow, methodical, often uncomfortable. Elias didn't disappear back to the city. He stayed in the same 2-star motel outside town, showed up at Site 12 every morning before first light, and left after the last crew member clocked out. Not as a supervisor, not as a foreman, just present. He didn't wear a suit, and he didn't give speeches. What he did was listen. When Marcy, the newly hired safety officer, arrived on her first day, she was met with a silent crew and a skeptical glance from Lana. Marcy was sharp, mid-40s, former OSHA field inspector with a calm, clipped way of speaking, and a clipboard that never left her side. If I see something unsafe, she said during the morning huddle, I don't send a memo, I stop the job. That's not a suggestion, it's a rule. No one clapped, but no one rolled their eyes either. The changes Elias implemented weren't flashy. They were structural, quiet, functional corrections that built on each other. The crew had gone from understaffed to just barely operational. 6 new hires joined within the first 10 days. None were shuffled in from other sites. All were local, vetted properly, and paired with experienced workers like Lana or Mel, a wiry veteran who'd kept to himself until now. Training sessions happened in the field, not in trailers. Marcy supervised every one. Elias didn't announce policies anymore. He walked the site with a yellow legal pad, asked questions, and wrote down what people said. One morning, he found Thomas, the forklift operator, who'd tipped the bricks reloading lumber by hand. Elias waited until he finished, then walked over. You ever get trained properly on that machine? Thomas shook his head. I drove one at a warehouse. Not like this, though. Mitch said it was close enough. Not your fault, Elias said. We've got a certified trainer coming in Friday. You'll get recertified. Paid time. Thomas blinked a few times. You serious? Completely. The next day, Elias pulled Lana aside after her shift. She was limping slightly, her right knee stiff from overcompensation. You've been pushing past your limit, Elias said. I can see it. How long's your back been giving you trouble? She didn't answer at first. Then, months. You need time off, not days, weeks. And lose the pay? No, full coverage, starting tomorrow. She stared at him for a long second. You're trying hard, I'll give you that. But if I come back and this place slides again, it won't, Elias said, because this isn't about proving something anymore. It's about doing right by you. She nodded once, then walked off without another word. Behind the scenes, Elias had ordered a full audit of all 13 sites, not by internal staff, by third-party evaluators with full authority to recommend dismissals. Within 2 weeks, 2 foremen from other districts had already been replaced for similar behavior to Mitch's. Elias didn't announce those changes publicly. He just made sure the crews affected knew someone was finally paying attention. At Site 12, work slowed, not from laziness, but from care. Every process was re-evaluated, materials were reordered, equipment was serviced instead of patched with duct tape. Overtime was capped unless requested. A portable shade tent was installed near the rebar staging area. Cold water was stocked in coolers daily. A basic first aid station was now mandatory, restocked every Friday without fail. On the 4th Monday, Elias watched a routine morning unfold. Crew members checked their gear. Marcy ran a safety checklist without raising her voice. The concrete truck arrived on time. The forklift was operated smoothly by Thomas, now certified and confident. No one rushed, no one yelled. The job moved forward. At noon, Elias met with the site's new foreman, a quiet, methodical man named Javier, who had transferred in from a well-run project upstate. Elias had personally reviewed his file. No write-ups in 20 years. Respected. Fair. "You good with the team?" Elias asked as they stood near the foreman grid. "They're cautious," Javier said. "But they're not closed off. That's something. They've earned that caution." Javier nodded. "I don't run things with threats. I run them with standards. People meet them or they don't. But no one gets humiliated here. That's why you're here." That afternoon, Elias held his only formal meeting with the crew. No stage, no microphone, just a circle of folding chairs near the tool shed. "I won't drag this out," he began. "You've seen what's changed. More importantly, you've made those changes possible. I came here thinking I needed to fix a site. What I realized is I needed to fix the way we lead." No one interrupted. Some leaned back, some crossed their arms, but they listened. "This company was built by people like you. My father knew that. Somewhere along the way I forgot it. That won't happen again, not here, not anywhere." He paused, letting the silence settle. "There's a new channel open now, direct line. You need something, you don't go through 5 layers of management. You come to me, no retaliation, no runaround." Mel, who had barely spoken to Elias since day 1, raised a hand slightly. "You gonna be around to answer it?" "I am," Elias said. "Not just for this site, for all of them." The meeting ended without applause, but no one walked away early. That was enough. By the 6th week, Site 12 was on pace with the revised schedule, realistic, humane, and safe. Injuries dropped to 0. Turnover stopped. The new hires stayed. The veterans engaged. Lana returned, slower but stronger, and took on a dual role, senior crew lead and safety liaison. On her first morning back, she passed Elias by the gravel lot. "You meant it," she said. "I did." She nodded once. "Then maybe there's something worth building here after all." Elias didn't reply. He didn't need to. 2 days later, he left Site 12 quietly. No speech, no ceremony. He shook hands, loaded his truck, and drove out of town as the sun came up behind him. He didn't go back to the office right away. There were 12 other sites to visit, and this time he wasn't going undercover. He was showing up as himself.